Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Coahw. That's Confessions of a Hotel Worker if you happen to be new. First up we have, overly flirty guy checks in at front desk for a 15-day long stay by Haunting Airport 964. Wednesday afternoon, a guest came to check in. The usual, I informed him we did not have any rooms ready yet. But I'll ask housekeeping. It was around noon after 53 checkouts. I let him know it may be a while, but he said that was fine. So we went on to having some small talk, nothing out of the ordinary, when he asked about things to do in town. I offered him some places to visit and food locations, taking note that one of the things he offered to do was not you. He asked for my preferences, and I provided them. He then said we should go out sometime to one of the restaurants I mentioned that I liked. I laughed it off as a joke. When I mentioned the drinks at a specific restaurant and our bar, he asked for my age. I said 21, and in response, he said, I'm 29, but I'm still in my 20s. Yes, darling, at the arse end of your 20s. He went on to tell me that he used to be in the army and just got this job. He's on a 15-day work trip where him and some co-workers will be at our hotel. Randomly showed me x-ray scans of his pelvis and legs with screws in them after he had surgery from a car accident, which left him partially paralyzed for some time. Talked about being technically handicapped, his words, not mine, in almost a bragging manner, and talked about being in Afghanistan while he served. During all this, he kept complimenting me and calling me pretty, all while hinting that we should get together sometime. He asked if I was working the next morning, and he asked when I got off work. I lied, said 4. He asked what I did for fun, and when I mentioned not much and that I just liked chilling at home, he said we should chill out together in what I took as a suggestive manner. He then brought up that his birthday is during his stay, and that I should show him a good time and go out with him to celebrate. I also took that suggestively. He called me sweet and asked if I was this nice outside of work, and when I said I'm not sure, he said he'd like to see what I meant by that. This went on for 30+ minutes. Cheesy, crazy. After housekeeping provided some clean rooms, I was finally able to check him in. He put his belongings in his room, and he sat in the lobby for some time at the couches in front of the front desk area. He disappeared for a bit, and I checked in some of his co-workers and other guests during that time. I didn't see him again until I was refreshing the coffee bar area in the lobby, and he crept up behind me and asked if I preferred being called not my name, but one similar to it. I was taken off guard and didn't understand the question. Before I could respond, he asked me again what time I got off. I think it was 2:40 at the time, and I said 4 o'clock, lying again. He said that it's almost time. He then reached over me and threw away some of the empty water bottles on the coffee counter that were there, since I was filling the water jug. Our city water is gross, so we use the same water bottles housekeeping sets in rooms. Once his co-workers met up with him in the lobby, he left me alone. I was so scared that I was shaking. I didn't know what to do in response to anything he was saying or doing, and I couldn't believe that he walked up to me like that. When I told my AGM about it, she just joked about having to walk me to my car and laughed it off. That's a bad AGM. I ended up clocking out right when it turned 3 and rushed to my car with my pepper spray in hand. I was so scared that he'd be waiting for me outside. When I brought up the matter to my main GM, she took it seriously. That's why she's the GM. I texted her next morning, Thursday, about an hour before I clocked in for my shift at 6 a.m. By the subject matter in her message, I assumed we were going to talk in person about the incident and determine what to do next, but she never arrived during my entire 8-hour shift. Instead, the AGM that didn't take my worry seriously when I told her in person, while the guest was actively doing everything I mentioned, arrived around 1 p.m. to handle the matter. AGM specifically just came into work to do that, and cover for the AGM since the hotel has 2 employee interviews scheduled. My AGM then went on to confirm with my GM that the guest never reached out to me the entire day, but he did. Literally 30 minutes into my shift, he said good morning and told me he'd be off work around 5 or 6 p.m. and was upset that he wouldn't see me again. I had to notify the ladies in our breakfast restaurant about it. How is an AGM, one who never talked to me about the matter, going to assume such a thing, then regurgitate that misinfo to the GM? When she came in, she just did the 2 interviews back-to-back, and then complained about having to contact the guy and said, "You could have just said you were scared," and just left after. Around 3, I talked to another front desk employee who just came in for the evening shift. I caught him up on the details and mentioned that I was very concerned since I worked tomorrow evening, Friday 3 to 11, alone, and yes, while front desk is mainly alone 24/7, I meant it in a sense that the entire building would be just me and hotel guests at night, no other staff whatsoever. He was concerned and offered to cover for me. When I got home from work, I received a text from my GM that in summary said, "Our AGM tried calling but couldn't contact him, so she left an email explaining we don't tolerate this kind of behavior. He was informed that if he repeats this behavior, he'll have to vacate the premises and his company will be contacted. If he approaches you again, please let me know ASAP." Great, an email, not a phone call, an email. Well, it being an email does establish a paper trail. He could deny they had a phone call. He could deny what was said on the phone call unless they're being recorded by your company. They might. Some companies do. I don't know if yours does. But an email, it's a bit more solid. So in that regard, I think that's probably a good thing. Regardless, I'm happy they helped and provided support. So I replied in gratitude and mentioned swapping my shift with the other FD friend I mentioned. She went on to the usual tangent, asking to have another FD employee to reach out to her to verify the validity of my claim. I texted my coworker, he then called our GM. Settled, right? No, because instead of us swapping a shift, he's just going to be there with me for the evening shift, which is fine. I'm not upset about having to work. I'd prefer to keep my full-time hours if anything. But by the way the GM put it, me and my coworker were swapping a shift. And to add insult on top of injury, she said I have to understand that I can't always have someone at work with me, and that the situation has been handled accordingly. Nice. So I'm still expected to go in tonight. I'm not too upset about the situation. I'm more upset about how it was handled. No one talked to me, and the issues above were only scraped over in a short message, because I planned to expand on it. I planned to talk to the GM about the extent of the issue, that him just flirting didn't make it uncomfortable, him alluding to hooking up, talking about personal matters, and approaching me from behind did. I didn't get to say my piece before they decided to send what I'm assuming is the ChatGPT-generated email about the situation, and call it a done deal. Both AGM and GM use chat regularly for work. Yuck. And now I'm stuck seeing this guy for 2 weeks. Yippee! At least I have the weekend off. Just for some extra context, here's a message I sent to my GM Thursday morning that started it all. Good morning, GM. Sorry for texting so early. I talked to AGM about this yesterday, but I wasn't able to catch you before you left. The guest I checked into room was very flirty, and during his check-in he stood there for over 30 minutes talking to me while we waited for a VR. He kept mentioning that we should hang out. Afterwards, he was sitting in the lobby for a good amount of time, the couches in front of the desks, and came up behind me while I was refilling the lobby's water. We can discuss this more whenever you come in today if you'd like. Update/edit. Surprise! Even when my male colleague is there, he approached us both 2 times while we were sitting down in the lobby, so night 10 check-ins. He arrived at the hotel around 7ish, I'm assuming off work since he was in coveralls and had a backpack with him. When he saw no one at the front desk, he took a step behind the desk and looked around. My coworker then asked if he needed to check in, since it looked like he was looking for someone to help him. He then walked over to the table we were sat at. With how we were positioned, my back was to the front desk area, the main entrance, while my coworker was facing it. The guest then said, "No," and walked over to us, and purposely walked around to see who I was. As soon as I saw him, I signaled my coworker that this was the guy. My coworker then turned into guard dog mode and immediately began mugging the guy. Full-on stank face, honestly. and asked if he needed assistance with anything. The guest said no and snuck in a hi to me before quickly wandering off. The interaction was immediately reported to my GM and originally stated that if the guest contacted me any further that he would be vacated from the premises. That did not happen. Well, at least now you know how much you can't trust your employers. Not even 15 minutes later, while I was on the phone with my fiancé to inform him about the news, I wear my engagement ring 24/7, the guest appears now in regular clothes, grey t-shirt, basketball shorts. He then tries to talk to me, but I got up from my seat, pointed at the phone by my ear, and excused myself to the back office. Unsurprisingly, my fiancé said he'd be there soon, not to cause trouble, just to hang out and keep an eye out. While I was on the phone in the back, the guest asked my coworker how work was going for both of us, if it was a busy night, and if it's usually busy on the weekends. When my coworker texted me he was gone and updated me on the situation, I was freaking out. I knew at this point I was very likely being overdramatic. I think sometimes you've got a sense of somebody's intent. But him asking those specific questions irked me the wrong way. If I worked my originally planned scheduled shift and not had the coworker with me, that man would have just sat down with me in the lobby and tried something, and no one would have been around. My coworker, an absolute legend, kept informing our GM by calling, texting, and updating her as soon as everything happened. The first time, my GM said whenever the guest returns to call her and tell the guest that the GM wants to talk to him, which is absolutely insane. She wanted one of us to approach this man, give him our personal phone, and let him talk to her. It's almost as if she was adamant on not having to come in person to the hotel. The second time, my GM said I was good to go if I wanted to, and that they have booked him into a new hotel for the remainder of his stay. However, she didn't make him immediately leave. Instead, she had him due to check out of our hotel on Saturday and check into his new hotel later Saturday. That meant he was still with us for the remainder of the night and the next morning. And still, no offer to show up in person to inform the guest all about this. She said one of us would have to let him know. I mean, really, if you're not willing to do things like coming in on your day off to deal with shit, you shouldn't be accepting a position as a GM. It's a sucky job, but you did accept it. In the end, I left around 8:50 from my usual 3 to 11 shift. The guest didn't pop up again after my fiancé arrived and stayed with me till we left to go home. He walked me to my car, the gentleman he is. My coworker was fine with taking the rest of the shift alone. He said he could handle the guy if anything happened. I definitely owe him one. And boom, the end. I was so happy it took 2 more encounters with this weenie of a man to be vacated. Overall, I felt neither one of my managers took the situation seriously, and fortunately, both my fiancé and coworker agree, so I feel like I'm not being too crazy about this. I'm aware I could have been more of an asshole and disengaged, and I was talking to this guy just like any other one of my guests. I love hearing about people's work, where they've been, what they're planning to do while in town, my hometown. I've never had a guest like this before, so obviously I wasn't prepared for this type of situation. I didn't intend for my usual happy-go-lucky front desk persona to be a turn-on for weirdos. Oh, honey, it was a turn-on because you had a pulse. I would also like to be not fired for being rude to a guest, since their word often weighs more than the front desk employees. Anyways, that's all. Shouldn't be more updates. Well, try to see the silver lining here. You've dealt with a creep like that before. You know that, if the alarm bells start ringing, then just completely blank them beyond the absolute most basic professional necessities, and don't engage in professional info. You were smart not to tell them when you got off work, actually, though, because he definitely would have been waiting for you. Although we'll add, men who have actual game don't need to come off that desperate. Alright, story number 2. My 911 call for myself. My hedgehog versus chili dog. I've worked at my hotel for about 11 years, 9 on audit. There's been plenty of times that I've had to call the police, but I did it through the non-emergency number. The times in the past that I've had to dial 911 was regarding other people's safety and care. This is the one time I needed to call 911 for myself. So my hotel is a beachfront property in the Florida Panhandle. I had a lady, Sally, try to check in around 1 a.m. following her date of arrival. She immediately tells me that she has a service animal. There are 2 things we're allowed to ask. Is the animal ADA? What does it perform? She said that it wasn't an ADA and that it was only a service animal. Curious, I asked if she were referring to an emotional support animal. She said no. She was having an attitude and telling me that it was illegal to ask those questions, and my god, they really need to change the fucking law on that, they really do. It's absolutely ridiculous. You should be able to ask whether or not someone's trying to sneak... If it's a legitimate service animal, there can be certification. There could be a card with approval and things on it. Something you put on the dog's freaking collar that you can't get easily, or you can't counterfeit easily, like you do any other form of ID. It's ridiculous. People go, oh, it's illegal to ask those questions. Motherfuckers. Where was I? I was reading a story. It was legal to ask those questions and mentioned about suing us because of that. Oh, good luck, lady. Obviously, I'm not bothered by something like that. The other issue is, I could tell that this lady was a problem and frankly had very bad feelings about her. I mentioned that we would be unable to accommodate her with this type of animal. This is a prepaid reservation, but I was more than willing to refund them. She got very angry. A gentleman that was with her, Carl, walked in and she told him the news. This man went off in a way I never saw a person go off about anything in my 43 years, excluding online videos of strangers. Immediately, he started yelling and screaming and calling me so many names. Oh, he must have had those queued up then. When I tried to tell him that I was only doing my job, he cut me off and called me, He got up to the front desk and acted like he was going to spit on me. You know that sound like somebody trying to work up a good spit from the throat? Yeah, like that. Sally told him to stop, but he kept doing it while looking like he was aiming for me. I backed up near the wall to try and avoid it if he really did. He then said much that suggested he was willing to beat me up. Honestly, I was concerned he was going to hop over the counter. He and Sally wanted me to call up her management. However, I refused to do it. There was no way I was going to wake them up for this craziness with an unhinged man. I called security, and Carl loudly mocked me for doing it while saying, "You think you can take me?" I think a toddler with both arms tied behind his back could take a guy like you. While waiting for Dean, he was still yelling and cussing me out while insinuating he was a physical danger to me. As soon as Dean walked through the front doors, without saying anything, Carl loudly said, "We got a problem," with a confrontational stance. Dean was taken aback and tried to calm him down, but Carl made fun of Dean's accent and told him to go back to Jamaica. He's from an island down south. Carl then started saying things suggesting he hoped I died and that I also got COVID. He took out his phone to record me, but I refused to look at him or say anything. At this point, it was clear that the non-emergency line was not going to be enough, so I called 911 on my cell phone. When the cops came, Carl was meek as a kitten. I explained the situation with the cop in the back office and had him trespassed. I should note there were several guests in the lobby who were witnessing all this go down, and who gave me sympathetic looks as I took care of whatever they needed. Yeah, aka losers who didn't step in to help. Story number 3. The Story of a Hooker, by OK Theory 3183. This happened when I worked at a hotel, but in housekeeping. And how I may have cost a desk clerk his sanity. I was taking my break and working on crocheting a lace doily, which I had just begun. Lace hooks are steel, and this company's go numerically by gauge, so the higher the hook number, the tinier it is. I was using a 13 or 14, the tiniest, so tiny it has a sheath. My break was almost over, so I laid the finished portion of the doily over the ball of crochet cotton, pre-wound over a cardboard tube, and proceeded to weave my hook through the top. It stuck, possibly because the ball was still fairly new, so there was a lot of cotton still on it. Possibly it had caught on the cardboard tube. I gave it a shove, it went through the ball of cotton and thunk into the tip of my left index finger, which was towards the top of the other side. To understand the position of my hand, go hold a mug, Cupping it partially in your hand, your index finger almost automatically goes up to support the top of the mug or can. At any rate, I could see the pucker where the hook had gone in. Wrapping my right hand around the ball of cotton, I was able to pinch the hook where it entered my finger to keep it from shifting position. And it went to, you guessed it, the front desk. I looked at the kid, maybe 19, and said, "How do you get a crochet hook out of your hand?" He gaped at me. "What did you just say?" I repeated myself. "Bert!" Bert was the front office manager. Bert came up, the kid explained the situation. I just stood there, waiting, unable to think things through. Shock, I suppose. Bert took me to the office of the doctor contracted with the hotel. I couldn't fasten my seatbelt, and countered turns by shifting my feet, giggling the whole way. "This isn't funny," said Bert. "But it is. It's the funniest thing that's ever happened to me." I giggle when I'm nervous, amused, or hurt. This was a perfect trifecta. "Well, I hope it doesn't happen very often." "Oh, no, it's never happened before." The doctor took a look, gave the finger a shot of numbing agent, and whipped the hook right out. Since it was my coffee break, and I wasn't clocked out, the hotel had to pay for the doctor. I had to go home because the pain med and numbing agent made me too lippy to finish my shift. I had the next day off. I never took lace work to work again, nor did I ever try to shove a crochet hook through a ball of crochet cotton, if it stuck. I did eventually finish the doily. Bit red now, I'd imagine, though I started over with a new ball of cotton. I had to use the same hook. It was a small town, and the yarn shop didn't carry a great quantity of hooks. I still have the hook, 50 years later. I still laugh about it, too. Give you an idea just how 21st century my brain is these days. You're like, oh, you couldn't just ordered one off Amazon? No, you probably couldn't do that 50 years ago when it didn't fucking exist. Okay. I still laugh about it too, and I imagine the front desk clerk, Bert, and the doctor still do too. If they're still living and remember it. I remember one day I was working at the front desk of a hotel in town, and this housekeeper chick. Alright, story number 4. Guy passes out and vomits all over carpet. My creative major 5792. Alright, I'm a French night auditor working near Mont Blanc. Very upscale and very chic 5-star property. Just started work about 3 weeks ago. I do a 3-2 day split with the other auditor, where he and I do 3 nights together. Then I do 2 alone. Essentially, on our days off, the other auditor covers for the one off. On my first night alone, after a week of non-existent training, thank God I have years of experience, I had my first solo night when the hotel opened for the season. 2 Middle Eastern men walk in, mid-20s. One said the bed is too small. When I ask if it's because he needs room to sleep with his friend, he immediately denies that they will be staying together. They will be shagging, then going to separate rooms. I was getting major closeted couple vibes, but they don't pay me to judge. I try to avoid moving him to another room, but he wasn't having it. I eventually say, "Hey, you know what, dude, I got a room tomorrow, but tonight it's just not gonna happen." And mid-explanation, he passes out and hits his head on the wall. Not a response I think anyone here was expecting. Mind you, he was perfectly sober. I call an ambulance, and his friend immediately tells me to hang up, and that this is normal. That's not normal, dude. I say, why not, and hang up. He then proceeds to tend to him on the floor in the most heterosexual way possible, by running his hands through his hair and whispering in his ear, pouring water on his forehead, while the other guy is straight zonked on the floor. After 45 minutes of clients stepping over him to get past him, he's literally on the floor in the middle of the entrance. I snap and say, if we can't get him into the room right now, I'm calling an ambulance, I don't give a fuck. This seems to snap the able-bodied friend out of it, and he realizes I'm serious. We proceed to lift him up into the elevator and walk him to his room, Weekend at Bernie style, I'm assuming. Across the way, he vomits 4 to 6 times, while passed out. And then when we arrive at the room, he goes full Family Guy vomit scene. I close the door and start flipping out. Oh, he was on something. Because I'm the night audit. I am vengeance. And I know very well I ain't getting no help with this, as I see everybody badging out and leaving me to clean the vomit by myself. Lovely people you work with. So I roll up my sleeves and get to work, using random-ass pieces of paper and trash bags. And honestly, whatever the fuck I can find to get this vomit off the floor without it getting on me. While I'm on all fours cleaning vomit, I have a group of clients that ask me for a bottle of rosé. And I say, sir, I cannot serve you right now, the bar is closed, and even if it was open, I have a solution I need to deal with. While I'm on all fours cleaning vomit, I have a group of clients that ask me for a bottle of rosé. And I say, sir, I cannot serve you right now, the bar is closed, and even if it was open, I have a situation I need to deal with. Silly mill. Bad move. This pisses one of the older men off, and he starts begging while also insulting my intelligence. Oh, that'll get you a bottle of rosé. Across the head. He then grabs my wrist, feeling daring today, is he, and pulls me toward the bar, saying that I am going to serve him. I snap and say, don't you ever touch me again, otherwise I will defend myself, and he walks away laughing, saying in the morning I will have no more job. My boss is mad cool. And needless to say, she looked at the cameras, saw me in this whole ordeal, and respected the fact that I still got everything I needed to get done. I still have a job, which is cool, I guess. Also, later on in the shift, the sheep. Don't ask why we have a sheep. The sheep got stuck in the electric wire, and I had to take my blazer off, put my knee on his neck, and unwrap his fence while getting zapped into oblivion. I am a vegetarian, and this was very distressing. Did they use the sheep to stuff their own pillows? Could charge a premium for that. Anyways, probably the worst night audit shift I've had in about 4 years, so fuck me, I guess. I mean, that's what the guy in the first story would have done. Story number 5. Front Desk Guest Complaint Story by Mick at Ryder. Tell me if I'm going crazy or if I'm just stupid and lazy. So I work as a night auditor for a hotel. I received this phone call when I'm not even half awake, to be honest. I have 2 jobs, a day job and a night shift job. So her question hasn't registered in my brain completely. She asked me what restaurants are open at 1 a.m. for takeout. Anything like BP. She also said, I'm not from around here, meaning she would have had to search up where to go in the first place. Anyway, I legit couldn't think of a single place to suggest besides McDonald's and Burger King, even though Denny's is open until like 2 a.m. I forgot about that option. When she arrived at the hotel at around 1:30, 2 a.m., she told me, oh, also you were wrong. Leo's was open at 1 a.m., so you should do your research as a front desk worker. Your job is to book guests in, not to fucking make restaurant recommendations. Every hotel I've been to has a booklet of food places close by. And you have a computer in your pocket that has access to all the knowledge of the world. I couldn't search up options because I was driving. Then pull over. Which was lame because there were other family members in her vehicle. Like 3 kids, 2 adults. Like, lady, we're a barely 3-star hotel. We're a small hotel with only 1 person working per shift. Do your own research before booking a hotel in an area you don't know. Then throughout the night she gets mad at me for not being able to give her and her family pillows. She says they don't have enough 5 members, and they had 5 pillows. To be fair, there's only one of me, I need 4. But I told her I wasn't allowed to leave the front desk unattended at night because I'm the only one on shift at night. This was after my manager had told us we can't let guests know we have a key that opens all the doors to our amenities like laundry room or breakfast stuff, so I assumed it also applied to the laundry room for staff. So I told her she'd have to wait for housekeeping. After not being able to give her the answer she wanted to hear, she proceeds to ask for a manager's card. Why do these fucking losers think the manager's going to fix everything for them? Ugh! I thought there was some on the desk because it had always been there, but I guess they got rid of them. So I was just our 1-800 number. So I gave her our manager's email, and she left very mad, saying she got no sleep, and that I should do better, and that this was ridiculous. I feel sorry for the poor pillows that have to have her head upon them. By the way, the last shift person shouldn't have accepted them at all, because our hotel doesn't accept prepaid credit cards or cash, and that's all she had on her. And she said she was told it was a $50 deposit with cash, but it's not. It's $250. Jesus. But she booked online through a third-party site. Last shift person should have told them we can't accommodate them without a credit card, and that they'd have to cancel, but I had to deal with their stupid ass. Quite frankly, I did not care and just think it's funny. Like, you can't just Google what stuff is here? What if I had just moved here and didn't know any restaurants too? I don't know. I just didn't think it was that deep, but maybe I just shouldn't be a front desk worker anymore. What's been some silly complaints y'all have received? I don't think it's that you shouldn't be a front desk worker. I think it's just that some people are determined to be miserable no matter what, and they're really determined to share the misery because, you know, it loves company. Okay, that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories. If you'd like to sign up for my Patreon page, that's linked in the description. $1 or more gets you early access to all the videos at once on Monday. Pay what you feel, that's how we do it. There's also a link to my merchandise store over on Teespring, as well as my Discord server, my Threads account, and my email, which is kingofthecities@gmail.com. If you need to contact me for any reason. That reminds me, I think I've got a story or two I need to save and thank people for. That's everything for now, so until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves. Bye-bye.